Welcome back to the Lessons for Tomorrow podcast, the motivational poster in your ear. I'm your guest host, Wes McChristian, Global Kentico Practice Director at AmericanEagle.com. In this episode, we're going to be diving into digital maturity and its connection to customer experience. To discuss this, I'm joined by special guest Jonathan Henault, Customer Experience Manager at Kentico. Jonathan, would you mind sharing a quick introduction about yourself and your role at Kentico?
Yeah, sure. No problem. So, as you mentioned, I'm Jonathan, but people here in Kentico, they call me Frenchy. And you can guess why, because of the stupid accent, but I'll try to make it comfortable for you today. So I'm, as you said, the Customer Experience Manager in Kentico, which means that I'm basically responsible for the positive experience of the customer, but also the partners with the platforms. To put that simply in a few words, my role is to define touch points, collect the data, analyze the data, create the personas, the profiles, the ideal client profiles, for example, map the journey, create this customer journey mapping and partner journey mapping also, and try to, and it's very important, and try to act on this feedback and on this mapping by creating some actionable that will help us to improve the overall customer experience here in Kentico.
I love that. That sounds great. I think that's what we try and preach to our clients every day, right? Is build a plan, form the strategy, measure on it, act on it. But let's dive in. You know, I think it might help to give our listeners maybe just a quick definition of maybe some of the topics we want to cover here in the session. Specifically digital maturity and customer experience. Would you mind maybe laying a foundation for us for these things? We'll build off that through our discussion here.
Well, these are very crucial terms, let's say, for what I'm doing and for every people should be doing. The fun part is that they are actually quite, we are using them as a synonym here in Kentico, customer experience and digital maturity. For us, they both refer to the company's level of sophistication, let's say, to measure and deliver digital customer experience across the touch points. The fun part also is that quite often I see the confusion between the term digital maturity and its close friend of digital transformation. That's maybe the better definition is to go actually by the opposite. Digital maturity is not digital transformation. Digital transformation is about leveraging digital technologies and adjusting business processes. And digital maturity is really about understanding what the insights are telling you and or you can be able to proactively act on it. So that's really, for me, the main difference between these two terms. And so a good point of the definition of digital experience maturity, I just say measuring and delivering, and that's the really important part. I think that to be considered as a digitally matured company, you should be able to understand who are your customers, what are their behaviors, or what are their feelings, or they act on the different stages of the journey with you. But, and it's really important, you must also have the ability to hopefully act on this insight efficiently to really improve the experience. I'm saying that because in my line of work, I saw a lot of people, and especially C-level people. They are really, really happy because they have ordered some customer journey mapping because it's kind of buzzword. So they said, okay, we need a customer journey mapping. They made a company did it for them most of the time. Then they are looking at it. They say, wow, we have a customer journey mapping, and they put it into a drawer and and job done. But that's not a job done, because actually, if you don't leverage this insight, if you don't act on it, that's half of the job done, I'd say.
Yeah, and you guys have done a great job of building some material, let's call it, and I'll let you plug it later, so save that. But, in my mind, I think like part of what you're speaking about is sort of the difference between strategic thinking and tactical thinking as well. Right. This idea that, we're not only going to form a plan, but then we're going to slot in individual building blocks into our competency and our day-to-day operations in order to achieve a certain goal. And, I think there's a precedent for like just kind of leveraging technology and purchasing technology. But without both of those layers, both the strategic thinking and the tactical thinking, sometimes it's easy for maturity not to increase or transformation to fall flat. And I think maybe I'll use that as a segue too, to I think, maybe the next important part here is, the champions that you have in place on your team are very, very important for increasing maturity and leveraging transformation into the business operations. So maybe from your perspective, who is this conversation relevant for, right? As we're talking about digital maturity and transformation, who inside of, our end users organizations are we speaking to?
You mean in terms of what kind of companies we are talking about? What kind of verticals? Or is that what you mean?
Yeah. So both, but I think it's both verticals and I think stakeholders, right? So Kentico has this precedent for speaking to the small team marketers, right, in their historic low code, no code sort of approach. But but I think, in our discussions and leading up to this, right, I think you have some notes about, how digital experience for customers is key to survival, as well as a couple other factors, right?
That's what I will say is that actually digital maturity, contrary to what you might think from outside, digital maturity is important for everybody. And it's a key of survival for a lot of people, especially in this, let's say, very digital post-COVID world we are living in. We saw it again with the COVID situation. There were a lot of businesses. They were in a lot of trouble because they were not ready to deliver, let's say, just an optimal digital experience to their customers. Could be just the story of this bookstore at the corner who were not able just to have a correct website where the clients can go and order some books. And I'm not even speaking about having a complete e-commerce solution. I'm just talking about just simple website with the possibility to contact the owner of the bookstore and say, hey, can you deliver it to me? Because I can't go out of my flat right now. So that was just an example, but I say that in general, not even speaking about this kind of extreme situation, we know from the statistic, we know from Forbes statistic, for example, that 75 or 74% of the customers are likely to make a purchase only based on the experience, the digital experience they had with a brand. And that's a very important number, a very significant numbers. This number means that attracting people to your website, it's good. It's very good if you manage to attract people to your website, but it's not longer enough to let's say to beat the competition or to survive, because now you need to attract people, but you need to welcome them, you need to engage them, you need to impress them, you need to nurture your clients, and that's all what is about digital maturity and by extension digital transformation. Just a quick note, because I just realized I'm talking a lot about customers and clients, this kind of terms. But actually, I think we shouldn't forget that customer experience management, it's also applicable to a lot of different areas and a lot of different verticals, such as, nonprofit or education, where we are not talking about clients for real, but just take another example of an university. If you're not a digital mature university, you're not able to provide a good digital experience to your students. So it will probably impact the quality of the studies, the ability to really progress. And at the end of the line, it will impact the reputation of your university. I'm not sure if you have this kind of clients, for example, in American Eagle, but I believe that customer experience can be applicable to a lot of people too. And finally answer your question after this long monologue. Sorry.
No. I think this is good, right? Because I think, and I'm just kind of jotting some notes down here to make sure I address it. Because starting from the top, I think it feels like every time we have conversations like this, the pandemic comes up. Because COVID did, I think, set a precedent for radical transformation for those that were prepared and those that weren't. And to maintain a certain level of customer experience through those fairly tumultuous times, right, with a lot of uncertainty globally, I think we saw, and at least one client comes to mind here where we saw a lot of consolidation, right? Both in terms of business operations, team size, as well as technology that was used in order to produce a given experience, right? To allow for, a brand to uphold its values and still, thrive, if you will. And so, I think that's an important part here too, is the transformation and the maturity is not a reflection of how many technologies you have in your ecosystem, but instead how you're using them, right? So to, go back to some of our earlier points. And I think you're absolutely right. It's relevant for everybody. Regardless of team size, because even the small teams are going to leverage the technology that they purchased in order to produce a meaningful customer experience. And that, I think, shifts to some of your later points too, right? Just to maybe address it specifically, because here in the United States, I think there's an enormous value now placed on EX, or employee experience, right? So it's not just how do we produce an experience for our end users that are driving business value, but how do we produce value for our employees who need to use those tools to achieve that end outcome of either increasing sales or increasing leads. If those teams don't have the tools that they need, then that's a really important part of this equation when we're talking about digital maturity in the context of not only customers, but our employees, in the way that they're leveraging user-friendly and intuitive marketing technology to achieve meaningful outcomes. And with the consolidation that's come, I think, we hope that everybody's sort of taken that lesson to heart to put customer experience first, and then by proxy employee experience then follows. So maybe to transition a little bit, I think this is maybe a great foundation and kind of setting the stage for conversation. But I think there's probably some value in also exploring how Kentico specifically views some of these topics. I think you guys have done a great job of telling the story of digital experience platforms through the lens of digital maturity. For your specific interest in customer experience, would you maybe say a few more words on how Kentico connects these topics together?
Well, first, I would like to say that I'm a big fan of this idea that employee experience is a is a big part of the customer experience. There is no customer experience without a good employee experience. And by the way, I'm starting to think that after doing the customer journey mapping, after doing the partner journey mapping, my next move will be to really map the employee journey for Kentico. If you mean by your question what we are doing internally in Kentico to do that, I can tell you a bit about that. Since we try to, let's say, live by your own principle and do what we say and practice what we preach, let's say. So digital maturity, it's important for us, obviously, inside Kentico. It's important as a strategy, as a product, but also as a daily work for us. And what is very important is that I think that for most of the people, even inside Kentico, that is a DXP, so it's supposed to be a common theme. Digital maturity is something that scares them a lot. A lot of people are scared by the word of digital maturity and by what it implies, but it's actually very simple. I mean, my job on a daily basis is very simple. I'm collecting data from different sources, and it's very simple to collect data from Google Analytics or to send a survey or to have interviews like the one I have with you guys some months ago. I have an interview with you about the way we are collaborating together with American Eagle. So that's a very good source of data for us. I'm doing some kind of abstract of these different insights. I'm putting them together, clusterizing them, grouping them by big ideas, talking with the people around me, organizing some workshop with the teams to cluster this insight, and I'm inserting them into the journey. We are using this model called the STDC. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, the See, Think, Do, Care. It's an alternative model of customer journey. Let's say it's very simple, 4 stages model. with a dozen of subphases, obviously, inside. And I don't believe you can find this in many available customer journey mapping templates that you see on the market. But the most important part is that I'm connecting this customer journey with what we are calling the opportunity solution tree, which means a tree of solutions with different branches and solution and experiments to close the loop. And that's we are always going back to the same idea. Don't stop with the data, just try to act on it also. So that's basically what we are doing here in Kentico in terms of digital maturity. And that's why trying also to push to our clients and to push to our partners as an idea of ideal customer experience management and customer and digital maturity management.
And would you mind explaining some of those 4 phases? Because I think, like, from a framework perspective,
sure.
like I think that's a very important narrative to understand, right? It's kind of this funnel idea, right, where it sort of starts wide. You've got 4, but then down into, I think you said, potentially dozens of outcomes. Would you mind maybe just saying a few words about that framework and
yeah, no
kind of how you've employed it at Kentico?
Yeah, sure. The interesting idea is that this is just a framework, so it can be flexible, very flexible. Right. That's the beauty of it. 2 companies will have very different subphases inside this model. But if you're using this see, think, do, care model, basically it means that the first phase is the see phase, where nobody cares about you. They don't know you. They don't need you. They are just they are not active at all. Then you have the think phase, where the client is starting to consider that he might have some needs or some trouble, some problems that he needs to solve. So he will try to find a solution. And all the think phase will be about identifying new solutions and comparing to competitors, basically doing RFP, trying to see internally what are the issues and how we can fix them. So they are trying to isolate a product that can be the solution to their problems. Then we have the do phase. The do phase is basically the sales phase. Let's say they are getting in touch with the solution, with the product. They will go through all the sales phases from they will be qualified as marketing qualified leads. Then they will become sales qualified leads, and hopefully they will become a client of the company. And then we'll start their care phase. The last phase will be the action phase, the implementation of the product. So in our case, the implementation of Kentico by a partner, for example. That's where also American Eagle can come into, if you were not there before in the sales phase, because it can happen also, but you will, most of the time, in 90% of the case, you will be there at least at this implementation phase. And the support phase, like the usage of the tool, implementation of new features, because for now it's just a website, but it needs to be more than a website. You need also to use all the marketing features and the marketing automation features that we have in Kentico, and that's very important for us to push for that in that phase. And then you have, at the end of this phase, the happy phase of the renewal of the contract, and hopefully let's add a dozen websites, because we are so happy with Kentico that we will add a dozen websites to our license. That's basically the idea. And just to finish on this, my answer, the fun part is that when you are applying to this partner journey, the see, think, do, care is the same, but the subphases will be very different, because there is no sales phase, properly speaking, with the partners. So the think phase, the do phase, and the care phase will be more about progressing in the relationship with the partners, with American Eagle, or we can do better, for example, in terms of getting new leads, in terms of supporting the more we can the end user, with working together on the problematics they can have.
I think I hope it's sort of coming into focus, right? That a positive customer experience can lead to increased customer loyalty, repeat purchases, positive word of mouth recommendations. While we all know a negative customer experience is going to result in lost customers and damage to a business's reputation. And the framework that you're describing is a way to ensure that we're investing our time and resources in the former and not the latter. And you're sort of touching on something important, very important towards the end there, right? And that all of these things, right? The customer experience, it's independent of the channel where that experience actually occurred, which just reinforces the importance of consistency. And, a business, would want to improve its digital maturity, needs to focus on experience or delivering exceptional customer experience across all the touch points, right? Because these high level categories that you've just unpacked for us, you said earlier, kind of made this comment about fear, right? Well, like maybe our SEO isn't as good as our email, but we still need to deliver the same consistent experience through some of those channels. And that brings this sort of very multifaceted view of customer experience and transformation and maturity, into the conversation, because I don't think there's any expectation ever that, you boil the ocean and you do all of it well. And so, as a result, being very kind of focused and intentional about applying something like the framework that you've described then produces benefit, not just for the customers, but also for the business, because understanding those customer needs and behaviors, personalizing interactions, and, potentially even using technology and data to continuously improve the customer experience. This is, I think, a foundational component of what we're talking about in the context of maturity and transformation. So I think that's excellent, and I love hearing how you're using it, and also how how the same sort of philosophy can be applied to a number of other business applications.
Mm-hmm. And it's very wide. It's very wide open, and that's what is very interesting actually with this job also, because not today is the same for me, for example.
Right.
Since the customer journey is so wide and the impact of the customer journey on the business is so wide that you can have very different impact from, it could be marketing impact, it could be sales impact, it could be customer service impact. You can impact other level. At the end, the entire company will benefit from this new digital maturity that you will.
Yeah, and I'm probably a student of what I maybe would term a fairly pure agile mentality, right? And I think if we boil that down to its just finest, most granular components, agile is about taking a step forward, evaluating, and then deciding whether or not you take another step forward or you take a step back so that you can reorient yourself. And I think that's an important concept here too, right? This open-ended framework gives us the flexibility to make those decisions without necessarily assuming what is the outcome going to be. Because I think we have to remain flexible and iterative in our approaches for how we apply things like this. But mm-hmm. I do think it raises an important point, and you set the stage for this earlier in the conversation, but it's the idea of measurement then as well. Right. So while we might not be assuming outcomes, but we are applying this framework, can we maybe have a quick discussion about the benefits of chasing that perfect customer experience and what it means to measure it? From your experience, how are you applying some kind of maybe some measurement philosophies to ensure that this framework of customer journey, of customer maturity, is ultimately going to deliver value?
That's the best part and also the nightmare part of my job, the KPIs. but that's a good nightmare. Like every month you have to go back on it, and then you realize that you're actually making progresses. So it's a good one. The thing is that, as I mentioned, it's the customer journey is supposed to cover everything. So the KPIs and the measurement of the customer journey can be very wide, and it will depend on your goals. Actually, you might have different goals. So what I didn't mention is that in the customer journey, there is one important layer, horizontal layer. Let's say you have the layer of the customer's actions, the layer of the actions of the company, And then you have a specific layer called goals and objectives, where you have before jumping to the opportunity solution tree and before jumping then to the KPIs and measurement and of your success with this customer journey mapping, you have the phase where you are trying to isolate what are your goals at each stage of the customer journey and what could be the impact eventually for the company. And it's like kind of strange because customer journey mapping is both a photography at the instant of what is happening with your company and your clients, but it's also a projection to the future and where you want to be and where you want your customers to be in a few days, weeks, months, years with this. So the measurement part will be related, let's say, to these goals. If your goals at one point is to really improve your brand awareness overall, because you are realizing with the customer journey mapping that it's one of your most important goals, and the measurement will be mostly focused on this: the numbers of visitors on your website, the numbers of visitors on your G2 review page. This kind of things can be kind of measurement, but it could be also the number of MQLs, the number of SQLs, your conversion rate, your time to market, the rate of your customer service answer. It could be anything. That's the beauty of it, but that's also the difficulty of it, because at one point it's also a big thing. And I think that the most important thing to say about KPIs and measurement of the success is that there is no such thing as a bad customer experience management. I mean, it's just about trial and error. As you mentioned it, it's this philosophy of trial and error. So you're trying things and then you see, okay, so it didn't work. Let's try something else. And that's why you have this opportunity solution tree with different branches that will guide you. And then you try these branches and it ends up not producing as much result as you want. So you are jumping to another branch and let's try it for another one. In the meantime, we will have make progress because we will have make another step, and another step is still one progress on the path of digital maturity. That's my point of view.
Well, I often will frame Kentico specifically as a aspirational technology, because we have clients that take or try to take, or in fact are able to take, a very nuanced view of their personas, right? From a demographic perspective, for example, right? It's like maybe we're chasing vice presidents in the retirement age for trust and wealth management scenarios for, let's say, a financial institution. And then we have other clients that are not taking such a nuanced view, and they're just saying, well, we want to, acquire more new clients, right, from using the website as a tool. And I think that's okay, to be able to do that. And I'm actually thinking of a specific scenario where I spoke to a client recently where we're using some custom activity inside of the Kentico CDP in order to tie back end user activity to contact records, in order to create that very nuanced view of activities that are happening on the page. And that sort of strategy, I think, I just love thinking about it in the context of how are we measuring our maturity? How are we measuring our outcomes, and applying it to, I think, as we've said a couple times, right, practicing what we preach. One important distinction here is, I think, total cost of ownership as well, right? Because at the very minimum, we're investing resources and operations in creating these frameworks. It takes time to measure things. It doesn't just happen overnight. But I don't know that total cost of ownership is a meaningful measure of either maturity or your perspective on customer experience. The Marcom stack being as congested and dense as it is today, I maybe joke a little bit, but we sometimes see the default mentality is like, just buy a new piece of technology and that's going to increase my maturity, and that's going to increase the rate of velocity on my transformation, and that's going to produce business value. And it's, maybe not always the case as we, hear the industry and our favorite buzzwords, of course, right? Not the least of which is this idea of composable. Do you guys see similar trends from your perspective, sitting at the maybe more the DXP level?
I'm really happy that you're going on this field of TCO, because it's actually one of our mantra right now, and we are trying to really push on this to try to explain hard to that one of the best thing with Kentico is that we have a very low TCO compared to most of our competitors. It's funny also to see how the composable DXP was really a buzzword some times ago, but it looks like it's already replaced now by the DXC, this digital experience composition. I don't know if you saw it going a few weeks ago. The terms appears quite recently, but I won't be surprised. I don't want to kiss and tell, but I won't be surprised if one of our competitor, starting with site and finishing with core, will make it it's messaging about DXC in a few weeks. Let's see. Let's talk about that in a few weeks, and let's see. What is important for us as Kentico, I think, is that it's not really the messaging and the buzzword DXC, DXP, headless CMS, whatever its name. The important thing is what your end clients will get at the end, and if it will fit the proper needs that they have.
Right.
I believe that internally we will more speak about ourselves as a hybrid, flexible DXP, if you want the full terms of the messaging. But it means simply that you don't have to choose between out-of-the-box, modular, composable solution. The client wants headless, or he thinks he wants headless, because most of the time he will come to you. He doesn't even know what it means headless, but he will come to you and say, "Yeah, I want headless, but okay, what is it?"
I've had those conversations. Yes.
Well, no problem. We are not headless CMS properly, but for us, as your better CEO Dominic Pinter said it last month, headless is just a feature, and we can deliver it. We can deliver headless if you want. The important thing is at the end that we are able to understand and that's the goal of the customer experience, also to understand the needs of the clients, and that our partners are also aligned with this philosophy. That the important point is what is the needs of the clients and how we can fit it with the thing. And I believe that with this thing, it's better to have like some kind of flexible technology like Kentico than something that would be really like presented as composable and is not really at the end. I'm not mentioning against Sidecore, but they say that I have composable, but okay, they are just buying a lot of things, putting them together. At the end, what is the cost of ownership?
Well,
that's a good question.
Well, I'll say I'm nothing if not pragmatic. After over a decade in the industry, we love our buzzwords, no doubt about it. And I think the important part, right, really just to maybe pull it all out of what you just said, and I think it maybe underlines the entire conversation we're having here, is make the right choice for you, make the right choice for your users, and plan. That's how we increase digital maturity. That's how we increase customer experience, and then ultimately enable digital transformation. Inside of our organization. So maybe to bring things to a close here. I'd love to give you the opportunity to say a few words about the maturity calculator that you guys have created. I think that's maybe a wonderful piece of how we can recommend action to some of our listeners based on the tooling that you guys have built up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point, because I didn't think about mentioning it earlier when we were talking about living by your principle and going through and what Kentico can do with digital maturity. Also, like in the fact, casually, I think that the digital maturity has always been in the center of Kentico strategy, whether it will be about educating people, meaning that we are trying to, through the marketing, through our website content, and through comprehensive tools such as this digital maturity calculator that we have just launched, and I think that American Eagle will be one of the first to really push it also. Maybe you can tell me more about it. That would be interesting for me to see what are your own opinion about the digital maturity calculator. But basically, it's based on our digital experience maturity model. This model is presenting 7 stages of digital maturity, from the simple home to the hamlet, to the village, to the town, the city, and the metropolis. And each evolution is representing a level of digital maturity. So it's our digital maturity model that is available everywhere, hopefully on a website. And then we have added another layer with this digital maturity calculator. This is a new online tool where you can just take a quiz answering 13 questions, and that will allow you to really assess your level of digital maturity and what it means to you, which is important. It won't only tell you where you are, but what you can do to go to the next level. And if this next level is actually a good thing for you, because for some people, there is no need to be a metropolis. Actually, it's very good to be a village if your needs are to be a village. That's also very good. So I think that's one of the things that we are trying to do with Kentico, is educating people through this kind of tools and content. And also, you mentioned it before, the other part of this action that we can have in Kentico is really providing the tools and the features to help you optimize your digital experience and to act on it. Once you understood the difficulty that you are facing, maybe you have some tools such as marketing automation, content personalization, email marketing management. You mentioned also A/B testing, website optimization. That's all the kind of tools that are inside Kentico that will allow you to really work on your digital maturity for real. Yeah. And I think that's how we are closing the loop.
Yeah, and some of the things that Jonathan's mentioning here, right, in the context of digital maturity and the model and what he's framing as sort of the size of your city, we're going to have these resources available in the links connected to the show here. So for those that are listening, we'll make sure that some of these resources are available for you to take a look at. Otherwise, there's plenty of digital maturity resources on the Kentico website as well as the American Eagle site. So, Jonathan, I think that about wraps us up for today. So I just want to thank you for the chat we had. I think it's very insightful, and certainly things that we don't want to lose focus on. So to all our listeners, thank you for tuning into the future by listening to the Lessons for Tomorrow podcast. For more information about the topics discussed today, check out the description of this episode. If you want us to cover a topic or submit feedback, email us at lessonsfortomorrow@American Eagle and let us know. Be sure to follow this podcast wherever you listen to them. To stay up to date with us while you're at it, give us a rating and share this podcast with others to prepare them for the future. Don't forget to follow us on social media. This episode is brought to you by AmericanEagle.com Studios. I'm your guest host, Wes McChristian. Tim Elanius will catch you in the next lesson.